Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to City Council Chambers, 429 C Street, September 6, 2022. Please silence all electronic devices as a courtesy of those in attendance. And if you guys could come in and shut the doors, that way we'll try to keep some of the cool air in here.
Yes, please.
We're going to go ahead and start one by one. Everybody, we're going to stand up and introduce ourselves. Oh, okay, maybe not. We'll skip that part. So we'll go into the study session. So SS1, cost of living adjustment. Mrs. Spear.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. That might actually be the first time anybody's ever clapped for me to stand up here. Okay, so this evening, I'd like to come to you with a request, staff and I would, for a 10% cost of living adjustment for the employees that work for the city of Lemoore. And I'm just going to give you some brief data and then I'll allow you guys, then you will be allowed to ask questions. Okay, so as I just stated, the city manager and city staff are requesting a cost of living adjustment for 10% for all city positions. COLAs are designed to ensure that purchasing power of the dollar isn't eroded by inflation. An approved COLA would result in salary band changes for each of the positions, and you have a revised salary schedule in your packet as well. So inflation is measured by what's called the consumer price index, and it can be done nationally. It can be drilled down to a regional level. And if any of us have been paying attention to the news, you can see that in the last couple of months, the national inflation rate has skyrocketed compared to previous years. In June of 2021 through June of 2022, so every month, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out a revised CPI index number, the percentage rate, for the amount of inflation that has occurred in the rolling 12-month window. So in July, they came out with June's numbers that said that the rolling window for the US as a whole was a staggering 9.1% in June. In August, they put out July's numbers, and nationally, that number dropped to 8.5. But if you can see on the table that's in your packet and also on the screen, in 2018, the average inflation rate for the entire year was 2.45%, followed by 1.8 in 2019 and 1.2 in 2020. And then in 2021, it rose to 4.7. If we continue on this track nationally, we're looking at about an 8 to 9% annual inflation rate at the conclusion of calendar year 2022. Next week, the U.S. Department of Bureau and Labor Statistics will be releasing August data, but to date, the most recent we have is July. So in order to drill it down a little bit further, we went ahead and took a look at what's happening in the Western region, which includes all of the states that you see here, for agencies, or I'm sorry, for cities that have less than a population of 2 million people. Okay, that's okay. So the Western region data I printed for you just so that you can see that it is very similar to what's happening at the national level. So rather than seeing an 8.5% inflation rate for July data, you see 8.3. So what's happening to us on the Western portion of the United States is very similar to what is happening across the country. So a little history. In 2017, the city did a classification and compensation study. And as a result of that study, collectively, all positions at the city at the time, when lumped into one bucket together, were underpaid by approximately 11.3%. You had some positions that were underpaid by as much as 27%, and some that were overpaid by as much as about 3%. But collectively, there was a pretty substantial loss of about 11.3%. So in January of 2018 of that year, the council decided to go ahead and do an 8% COLA, much like we're asking for today, in order to try to stop the bleed. Basically identifying the fact that we couldn't afford to fund the full efforts of the class and comp study, but would help get us a little bit closer and help us with retention and recruitment. So in January of 2018, every position of the city at the time received an 8% COLA increase. That addressed the deficiencies that happened in the years prior to 2018. So now you're going to add the cost of living and the inflation that has occurred since 2018, which is collectively 12.2% as of the conclusion of calendar year 2021. If you add to that the other 9% that's estimated for this year, we're looking at about a 20% inflation rate over the span of that 5-year period. So a 10% request for a COLA doesn't even touch what we've already seen in inflation since the last time positions received raises. So the cost of the COLA is pretty significant. We're looking at about $900,000 or just shy with all of the funds. So you have about $675,000 to the general fund, followed by $14,400 to fleet, $16,700 to water. You're going to ask me, why do you have charges for water if we outsource water? And that's because our utility billing staff still exist in the water fund and they're still current city employees. Then there's another $81,000 for refuse and $77,000 for wastewater employees. So inflation is affecting agencies nationally as well as locally. And just as a snapshot, in 2022, the Social Security Administration provided 5.9% COLA for all Social Security recipients, which is the greatest COLA in 40 years. Followed by that, they're expecting another 8 to 9% for COLA for Social Security to happen in 2023 because they base their data on third quarter inflation rates from the previous year. So as soon as September concludes, they're going to look at the Q3 data, which is July, August, and September, to determine what the average rate was. And that's typically what the Social Security Administration uses for their increases. When they do that, that also affects all veterans and disability benefits. So it's not just Social Security people, it's also those veterans for the United States. And in May, CalPERS gave a 4.7% COLA to all of their retirees. PERS has different rules depending on the contracts, but the maximum COLA that PERS can grant at any one time is 5%. So they've almost exceeded or almost reached their max. So the City of Lemoore employees provide an invaluable service to the City of Lemoore residents. Everybody likes the fact that their toilets flush and cops and firefighters show up to their calls for service, or that there's people at the window to pay your water bill. They're probably not as excited that I exist to give these presentations, but yet here I am. An approved COLA increase would ensure that the value of the dollar that the City of Lemoore employee received in 2018 remains the same or as close as we can get it today. So taking an employee who received an 8% COLA in 2018, who is already topped out in their ranges, who has seen no movement, has effectively seen at least a 12% reduction in the value of that dollar over that same course of time. Add into that the fact that other agencies in our region are also acting on this same issue. So you have Kings County, who's going to give a 6% COLA on top of doing a comprehensive class and comp study that they're likely and hoping will result in their positions being paid at median to their comparative agencies. You have the City of Hanford that just completed a class and comp study. And for the law enforcement officers, they received a 16% increase over 3 years with 12% in year 1. And although that wasn't a COLA, that was an analysis of their comparative agencies and where they fell in that group of data. This COLA is not designed to bring our positions to market median. To do that, we would have to do a class and comp study, which was requested during the budget presentation and was denied. So this is an attempt to try to make sure that the people that are coming to work and working hard every day can still afford to buy groceries and pay their rent and pay their fuel bills, with the understanding that there's things that are happening outside of this agency that we can't control. National inflation, what our allied agencies are doing around us. This is a good faith effort, if you will, so that the employees know that we're doing our best to understand that they're working as hard and essentially taking home less money. It will also help us with our recruitment. So we have had several, I don't want to say failed, but they essentially were. We've offered positions to at least 4 people who turned down jobs specifically because of the pay that was offered. Not because they weren't qualified, not because we didn't offer the position, but we weren't able to offer the salaries that were consistent with what they thought the job required. You're going to ask me, then why did they apply? I have the same question. I don't know the answer. I just know that we've made those offers and that's the response that we have received. That is essentially the conclusion of my presentation, unless you guys have very specific questions, and I will do my best to answer them.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
This 10% COLA, I know there was we've talked before about doing the class and comp study. Would doing the COLA before the class and comp, would that complicate things any? Is it gonna change things the wrong way?
I will tell you, based on preliminary data that I have from the previous class and comp that again was issued, 4.5 years ago, there's literally only one position in the city that would, I'll use air quotes, overpaid to the median, and it was only by 3%. So if you look at what's happened nationally since that study was done, I would bet money that that position is no longer overpaid compared to the median. This 10%, a class and comp study is going to take time, right? Best case scenario, 6 months. But in order to execute a class and comp, we then have to enter into negotiations with all of the bargaining units. And you've all been part of that process. It's not easy. It doesn't happen in 1 or 2 meetings. So you figure at best, we're going to take action, let's just say 8 to 9 months from now. With everything that's happening in the economy, I'm thinking that that's going to be detrimental to many of the employees that work here to wait that long to take action. I would like to see council approve a COLA and let us do a class and comp study. Because if what we saw in 2017 is anything like what we should expect to see today, you're going to have positions that are easily 25 to 30% below the median, and this 10% still isn't going to get them there.
Thank you.
Your answer was no.
Yes.
So I have a question. Everybody in this room, we all know that our finances have been difficult for the city. Is this something that we can afford?
Yeah, so the adopted budget for 2023, we anticipated that we were going to begin 2023 with a reserve fund balance in the general fund of about $8.4 million. We brought a budget to you all that had an increased need of 2.5 million, which says that at the end of this year, we anticipate our reserves to be about 5.9 million. So we're talking about touching it to the tune of about 675,000. The other thing,
Question.
yes.
With respect to that. Why are we not going through negotiations to do this?
We asked to reopen negotiations and it was denied.
You asked who?
Council,
For this specific purpose?
not for this specific.
You didn't
purpose.
ask us for this specific purpose?
No.
Okay. All right. Just want to make that clear.
And so we could afford this long term.
We can afford this for several years. City manager and I have talked about it, and I don't know, Mr. Olson, if you want to talk about some of the projects that are coming online that will hopefully bolster our revenues moving forward. I will also mention that, as many of you know, there's the American Recovery Plan Act funds, the ARPA funds that came out, and council has authorized those funds to be used for certain items. And at the time that council made those decisions, it was based on the federal interim rule. And at that time, there was a very complicated formula for determining whether or not an agency could use that in their general fund for revenue loss. At the time, we couldn't, but the final rule was issued, and it said that any non-entitlement unit of government, which we are as the city of Lemoore, that received less than $10 million in ARPA funds, which we did, should place that money into their general fund as revenue loss, recuperation of revenue lost. There's approximately $1 to $1.4 million in ARPA funds that have yet to be allocated. And when that budget amendment comes to council, if it was approved, that would be moved into the general fund. If council chose not to do that, it would sit in the ARPA fund and could still be used for any number of things, including these types of items.
When did we know about that ruling change with the ARPA funds? Was it before we approved the budget or after we approved the budget?
I don't think the final rule was issued until after, I don't remember, honestly.
It was after.
I believe it was
It was in August.
We can get that date.
So you're approaching this as an emergency.
I don't know that I would say it's an emergency,
Well,
but
why are
I
you
do
here?
think it's important.
There's no question that the facts articulate that inflation is affecting everybody. It's not just the city of Lemoore, it's articulated all the other agencies that you've identified. What I have concerns about was that we approved a budget and we're also we are not entering in negotiations because of the ARPA funds that we used too, didn't we?
You mean for the premium pay?
For the premium pay,
Yes,
right? And how much was the premium pay?
$20,000 an employee,
Okay, over how many years?
3.
3 years.
Well, in some cases, 2.
Um, I guess I have a problem with why this wasn't addressed at this year's budget.
I'll speak for myself. I don't think at that time, when I'm in the thick of building budget, that I'm paying attention to the annual inflation rate. And then I know that since the budget has been adopted, many of our neighboring agencies have taken action and have, finished class and comp studies, which we can't get copies of, by the way, because they've left them in draft format. So we're not legally allowed to see them. We just know that many of our neighboring agencies are taking action. We are seeing employees leave us to go to neighboring agencies, which we will always have. I've said from the beginning, and I know that Sergeant Pescator can attest to this, the city of Lemoore is likely never going to be competitive with the cities of Clovis and the cities of Fresno's of the world. But when you have agencies within your county that are taking action that is above and beyond anything that we have done since 2018, and we're seeing a loss of employees, and not just in law enforcement, but in just about every facet of discipline that we have, it's a little bit concerning. And I wanted council to understand that we are paying attention to that, and it would be really nice if we could do something to help keep people here and draw new talent.
How many of you are going to leave if you don't get this? I mean, because there's a possibility, yeah. But I mean, how many of you are actually going to go? Or would you rather negotiate a different contract? I'm just, it's a study session. We're not going to make any rule at the study session. We don't do that. I'm just curious.
Are you asking me, or are you asking the
I
room?
just asked a general question. My concern is that there's a process that you're presenting that is urgent, that we should spend this money now. And, we had a water tank blow up. Good thing we had some money to spend then, okay, to keep everybody with water. But we're also moving away from a process that has been a long-standing process in the city, and that is through negotiations. Usually a COLA is through negotiations, right?
We've only done it one time since my time here, and it was an abbreviated process, but yes.
Yeah. Right. And I guess my concern is I don't really want to start a precedent where that's what happens, that we use the podium as a way in which to obfuscate the collective bargaining process.
So I'd like to step in here for a minute, if I may, Mayor and council members. We did have discussions about going back to the collective bargaining units and negotiating multiple times, and it was denied. Since the original budgets were built for this year, there's been a lot of movement in neighboring counties, agencies, and nationally on the inflation rates. We didn't know when we negotiated some ARPA funds for basically to non-negotiate any salary increases for the next 3 years, what was going to unfold. And we're losing ground to neighboring cities daily. I think it's sad that we have to ask our employees, are you going to leave if we don't get you some more pay? It'd be nice just to try to get somewhat favorable to where we need to be. So that's not even an option. I think we offer good benefits. I think we offer good medical. I think we have good camaraderie. I think we have good disciplines within the city. And I truly think people want to be here. But at some point, the want to be here has to weigh in with the need to provide for your family and keep pace in today's economy.
Well, and I guess the other issue I'd like to respond to is that with using the ARPA funds, the preferred pay, is that what you call it?
Yeah, the premium pay.
I think that was good faith on our part to at least address an issue of the way in which we recognize how hard the employees work, to address some of that in that manner. So with respect to what could come in terms of negotiations, I would much rather reconsider the negotiation process through collective bargaining than doing something hastily that we might think 6 months from now, we wish we wouldn't have done that. Or I'd like to review the option of having a compensation study, rather than make a decision tonight that we have to have
Council, anything else from council?
Yeah, I see both sides of this conversation, and at the end of the day, I've done a lot of research, and I've spent many hours with our assistant city manager and with our city manager pertaining to this. And at the end of the day, I'm not gonna throw rocks at previous councils, but previous councils have made decisions that have tied all of your guys' hands and all of our hands into what we all get paid. Not what I get paid, but what you guys get paid. And it's very disheartening for me to look at the last 10, 15 years of what you guys have went through, and I'm not cool with that. So how long do you think we could get you said we denied a compensation study?
Yeah, it was requested at the budget hearing sometime in June, and council declined to allow me to add it at the time. Are you going to ask how long the study takes?
She said 6 months.
Yeah, well, I think it's closer to
Yeah.
a year, but
It depends on how comprehensive. So obviously that also is a negotiated process. So we have to sit down with each of the bargaining units and come to terms on the number of comparative agencies we want to use and whom those comparative agencies are.
now who's gonna sit on that? Who's gonna sit on that? Who's gonna decide that? Us and I'm just gonna pick one person, Mark. Is it gonna be you and Mark deciding those?
It's your
5 people?
negotiation team, and typically that's, the city
That-
attorney
the
and I
negotiation,
and
okay.
their unit, but then it comes back to council in closed session and you guys hear what is presented.
Okay.
We have had one preliminary meeting. This was during the budget development process so that we could come with data with a company that does them regularly. If we were only doing a compensation study, I think they said 4 to 6 months. If we add in the classification study, which is an evaluation of the workload of each of the positions compared to other agencies, which I think is important for us since we're so small and we have a lot of hybrid positions. That's closer to like the 9 to 12 month when you add that in, including the compensation, because the classification portion has to be done first, and then the compensation study is done after the fact.
And that costs,
I think the
Roughly.
last time we did it, it was about $75,000, and that was in 2016. I think we signed that contract.
so we just went over inflation, that's gonna be $100,000 bill.
Sure. Let's round up.
with respect to the classification study, is my understanding that you negotiate that in terms of who you're going to compare your agencies to, or does you have a firm come in and give you a comprehensive study of?
When we did it last time, you'll have to forgive me, it started before I got here. I came in the middle, but my understanding is that each side of the table, for lack of a better term, puts the name of the agencies they want to compare themselves to. And I'm just going to pick on the PD for a minute. They're going to,
But why wouldn't we, for example, PD, why wouldn't we take a look at the counties around us and the cities involved in, what's the secret? Why not do them all?
because the agencies that your units are going to want to compare themselves to are not necessarily going to be the same agencies that the city would like to compare ourselves to based on size, number of calls for service. There's all kinds
No,
of
but
different.
there's- I mean, that stuff you can sort out in the process. I mean, we should, I mean, the facts are out there. I mean, whether we like it or not, those are the facts. I mean, I'm not saying that, yeah, we might be not competitive with Fresno City, but okay, you throw one out at the top and one out at the bottom, but you're still gonna have a range that you're gonna look at. And you're gonna have to negotiate to some point in there, I would imagine. Right?
Yes.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah,
Sort of.
sort
Yeah, I
of.
mean,
Basically,
so
what it
it's
comes down to,
negotiation.
basically what it comes
You do
down
a
to
negotiation also.
is, let's just say it out loud. The city and us don't want to compete with Hanford. We can't compete with Hanford for their budgets, all that, but we can compete with Selma, Kingsburg, places that have
Yeah.
similar calls, similar officers, similar things, similar, those are what we can do.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do.
Well, and there's also.
We don't want to, we can't go against Clovis.
No, but
no one in this room
these
could-
guys know that there's other things that they may want other than salary too. That, you know,
I-
that are out there. So I mean.
I've negotiated for many years and yes,
salary's
they want something, but
The study is also, so when the
90%
median
is
is,
money.
when the median is established, it's based on total compensation. So that does include,
Health benefits, everything.
yeah, a few more things that are a little, I mean, they're tangible, but
Right.
it's their PERS rates, all these things that are a little bit more complicated to
Right.
address than just strictly a salary band.
Now, the number you gave us, the 800 and whatever it is, the
The
900,
total cost of this particular ask,
that
yes,
includes the CalPERS part of that?
yes, and all of your taxes, including positions that
Now, I'm
So
gonna-
since we've adopted the budget, there's been a couple budget amendments because we've added positions or eliminated positions in the case of the water department. So these numbers include those already council approved revisions.
We still don't have all the positions from the call center, right?
No, those are not included.
They're not in the budget. either.
No.
What's that estimate?
I don't know. I have not looked at that recently. I
Where's
think
that?
Chief, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Was it about 550,000 for the staffing for dispatch the last time we looked?
Where's that come from? We use our funds for that?
The funds that we.
Don't pay him for PD. We pay him for PD. Totally lost my train of thought. Now I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yay.
How bad do you think we are currently guessing, not professional, from a middle? Percentage wise.
This is why it's really hard because it truly does depend on the comparative agencies.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't seen Hanford's study. We've tried to get it. But if Hanford was 16% under their median and we all thought Hanford got paid a lot, if we used the same agencies, do not quote me. I do not know. I'm literally just making up a number. Call it 30. But I'm not even arguing.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
messing with the volume.
Okay, sorry. I'm not even arguing that we should use the same comparative
No, I'm-
agencies,
and I'm not-
but
I'm
that's
not
why those
suggesting we should
comparative
either. I'm
agencies
just-
matter. Because like Kings County and Hanford have already indicated to the city manager that their goal through their studies is to make sure that every single one of their positions in their agencies is paid at or above median. Their median is specific to the agencies they compared themselves to. So, yes, sir.
So also you were talking about things that we've done or haven't done. We used to have a policy, I think we just got rid of it at the last meeting, of the size of our reserve, the percentage of our reserve.
Did we get rid of it at a previous council back in 2015 adopted that the reserve for the general fund should be
35.
35%.
And didn't we just reduce that?
I don't believe we ever took actual action to lower that amount
We
down.
talked about it.
35% is the target.
We talked about it.
I think that's too
That's-
high, and I think that should be reduced. And that's-
And that's on a list of fiscal policies that need to be revised and brought to council.
Yep. I mean, we work against ourselves by having a policy that says you have to have such a large reserve. And then when you have these needs come forward, you don't have the dollars to pay them. But if we had a more reasonable reserve that was less than the requirement that we had, even 10% less, 25%, that gives us significant amount of dollars to work within the budget. So to me, that's a tool to help solve this issue for long term.
So the comp study.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask, and I know you're gonna tell me, oh, I can't answer that. But the comp study, that's probably gonna come back at about a 12% COLA. No.
For which position?
I mean, generally averaged across the board.
I'd say
That's kind
probably-
of, I understand that you can't answer it, but that's kind of how it feels after looking at all the numbers and everything, which is why this is what I'm getting ready to say. So I support this. I support the fact that my staff came to me and said, hey, this is what we should do. And I support it. I also support the fact that we should do the comp study after we do the 10% COLA. I just want you to know that. I want everyone to know that.
And Stu, I would agree, it's gonna be closer to 25. If I was a
Well-
betting man, and I'm not, but I just left Vegas, it's gonna be 20 to probably, unfortunately, it's gonna be closer to 30.
Well, you were at 11.3 collectively in 2017 data, which probably came from 2016 numbers.
And plus, we've had the CPI indexes rose 8%
Exactly.
since then. So,
Yes.
and just by that, you're probably close to 20%.
What was the percentage of the ARP funds that we gave roughly to each employee?
You mean compared to their current rate?
Yes, if you want.
Yeah, it's gonna vary.
Well, somebody like, for somebody like Nathan or I, it was probably, I don't know, I could do the math, but when you're talking about a maintenance worker that gets paid on the lower end of the pay scale, that was pretty substantial. I wouldn't be able to do that without physically doing the
well,
numbers.
I mean-
Part of my point is that we attempted to address your concerns that you brought to us about how our employees were working during the pandemic. And I think we did. The other part of the issue is when you do a comp study,
It's 30%.
and as you presented it here in the data, whether it was PERS or whether it was, I guess it was, PERS or somebody, they have a limit of what their COLA is.
Mhm,
Even Social
PERS.
Security has, we may get a study back that says you got to do 30%.
Well,
But
so
we're not obligated to do.
I was guessing that I was guessing at 12% on top of the 10 that we would give.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're
That's
part-
kind of where I was driving at. And
Okay,
so that's why I was saying, why deny the 10% now, especially if our money person is telling us that we can afford it.
Council's actions in 2018 were for exactly what you just described. So there wasn't enough money at the time to address how far out around positions were. And so rather than trying to piecemeal it together position by position, they threw an 8% COLA at it, appeasing people for a while. And honestly, it was the right thing to do at the time. And we're just in a similar situation, and the market is changing much more rapidly than I think anybody here would have expected it to have.
Anything else from council before I open it to public comment or? Yeah, it'll be a public comment, correct? Yes.
yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open it to public comment at this time.
All around there at once.
Seeing none? Okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Nobody wants to go first.
Yeah, that's what it is. No one's first.
I'll be real brief. Just to address the ARPA, the premium pay, it's apples and oranges, in my opinion. The ARPA pay that you're talking about, that's apples and oranges. That was a stopgap that the union and the city came to because we had not gotten raises in so long, and we knew the city's financial situation was what it was, and we figured that was a good stopgap to keep everyone kind of placated.
So we thought that was a good stopgap.
And it was, I'm not arguing with that at all. We were very grateful, for that. But if you look at the reality of it, it was $20,000 per employee after taxes, is 12. Honestly,
Everything's after tax.
absolutely. This 10%,
It's 10% after tax.
this 10% is exactly what the city needs, the city employees need to keep us moving forward. We're here, half my department, half my association is here, looking at you guys, asking you to do the right thing. Do right by us. This is huge. I understand the financials. I talked to Michelle, I talked to Nathan. The city can sustain this. As far as negotiating for it, I'm all for negotiating again. But let's get this done first, and then we can talk about negotiating further. Thanks.
Well, let's talk about negotiating further. When is that next negotiation?
2 years.
I mean, we're all family here.
So per the letter of the current MOU inside letter, in January, the bargaining units can request a reopener for everything that is not related to salary. The next time they can renegotiate for salary is after June of 2025, which is the 2025-2026 budget year. So essentially 2.5 years from now.
And that was-
Do you agree?
Yeah, and that was again, because we knew the city's finances, we knew what we were looking at, and that was our way of trying to work with the city to make everything sustainable at the time.
Mark. Do we agree that this is a different council than before?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm just asking you guys, like I said, half my association is here looking at you guys to do the right thing. Just do the right thing.
And I agree.
Thanks.
There's a lot of public in here. No more public comment. Yeah.
Come on, someone's got to say something.
I'm not a public speaker, so
Yeah.
That
I've been
mic will
here.
mess you up too.
I grew up here. I've worked for this department now since 2002. I left in 2013 to Hanford because of money. But in that time I was there, I realized, not everything's money. You're right. Brings me back friends and everything else. But in 2016, I'm making $400 less than I'm making today, take home as a sergeant, as an officer over there. Inflation we don't know about. That ARPA funds, yeah, we appreciate it, but a lot of us, I'm sure I know me, I use that to take my kids on a vacation that I never get to do because of what we do make. And in reality, if I didn't, that'd be an extra $500 a month. We're just asking the right thing. I don't know if you guys know the pricing of housing right now. I sold my house because I had to. I had an $1,800 payment, single income. I have no toys. I have a truck and kids, and I can't afford it. You go to Costco now, 4 items are $130. You go to Kmart, $50 for 2 items. It seems like, so with gas and everything else, we can't afford to really work here to live. And I'm sure other single incomes, double incomes, yeah, it helps, but single, a lot of these new officers, I'm sure they can't even live on their own. Tanglewood Heritage Apartments I was looking at today, 2-bedroom apartments starting at $1,800, $19. I need a 3-bedroom. I go look at Hanford, they're building new ones, $2,400 for a 3-bedroom apartment. That's one check of mine. So that being said, thanks for listening. Hope you do the right thing.
Thank you.
I've been here about 4 years.
What's your name, sir? I'm sorry.
Oh, Officer Ferrer.
Right on.
I'm not a great speaker. I'm working on it. So same thing with my sergeant. I've kind of adopted this city as my home. I wanted to move here. Same thing with houses, which that has nothing to do with the city, but man, it's killer. I'm at the point in my career now that everyone I've watched above me, my stripes, so my corporals, my sergeants, the people that taught me how to do this job, everyone's leaving. And these are amazing officers that are leaving. These are the guys that taught me how to do the job and the reason why I drive by myself. So seeing some of the better friends that I have leaving, seeing some of the stripes that taught me leaving because of financial burdens, watching them go to do the same job at a different department, the job that all these guys are doing, job that I'm doing, but I am getting paid significantly less. And to branch off my sergeant, I can't go on trips. I can't do anything. So you guys opened the podium for my opinion. So I just kind of wanted to be a part of sharing it with you guys. It's very concerning to see all my friends, all the mentors, everybody leaving for a job that's being done 10 miles to 30 miles away. Same job, same call for service, just significantly less. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Ortega. I've been with the department for about 2.5 years. I was actually raised in Coalinga, was proud to be in Coalinga, and then I got a job opportunity here. Chief he put the faith in me to do this job. Little did I know that I was actually going to fall in love with Lemoore. I actually moved here to an apartment. Me and my girlfriend we're currently trying to find a housing, but it's kind of hard. I have a little 14-month-old baby, and on my days off, it kind of hurts me to not be able to go and do things that I want to do with him. Fortunately enough, my girlfriend has a good job, which is why we're able to make it. But things have definitely been a little bit of a struggle, and I can't even account for some of these guys who have single incomes. But even right now, I just want to say I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be a part of Lemoore. Just proud. But I just hope you guys can do the right thing today. Thank you.
Hey, do you guys know we have a new home buyer bonus thing too? Did we announce that? Did we? I tried.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Danny Santos. I'm the lieutenant in charge of the support division for the Lemoore Police Department. Part of my duties are to recruit and hire new officers. Just to give you a quick oversight. When we hire a new officer, it takes my team about 4 to 5 months to get them ready for their street. And then we're putting out a new officer that's inexperienced on the street. And they're gonna learn either from experience or from learning from their fellow officers. We are losing officers. In addition to that, just like Michelle said earlier, it's getting harder and harder to attract applicants. In the past, we were getting about 60 to 70 applicants for the reserve officer position. The last time we held oral boards for reserve, we had 12. Out of those 12, several had been through different departments for different issues, sometimes background, sometimes performance. So it's very, very hard to find qualified individuals. We are having issues with academies. Fresno Police Department, along with Clovis Police Department, are hiring entire academies in Fresno. So for the near future, it's going to be pretty difficult for us because of the pay, because of what is attracting these officers to come to our department. It hurts me to see my officers leave. We put our sweat, our tears into them, and sometimes they do it. And I don't blame them because they need to make ends meet. At the very same time, we have a lot of dedicated individuals that I would hate to lose in the near future. They're very dedicated to this community, and they push themselves hard. We push them hard. And we emphasize, you get a call, you respond out there, and we want you there in a couple minutes because that's what the public deserves. I don't want to lose any of them. Right now, as we speak, I got to take my team. We are training on high-risk entries. We're training on active shooter response to schools. So as we speak now, I am training them, and I am telling them and emphasizing that I expect them to put their life on the line. It is unacceptable to let kids get hurt, as we have seen in other cities, in other jurisdictions. I'm telling them, I expect you to go in there and put yourself in front of that bullet before a kid gets hurt, before a civilian gets hurt. So I appreciate the time that you allow me to speak, but my team and I, we gotta go. We appreciate you guys.
Dan, can I-
Thank you, sir.
Dan?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I appreciate your presentation. That was very, very helpful. How do you anticipate dealing with the divide not really being able to close?
With the what, I'm sorry?
With the divide, the compensation divide not being able to close as much as you'd like. So in other words, I guess it was really telling when we talk about the Fresno Academy or the Clovis Academy,
Yep.
just hiring the whole.
Well, there's one thing that keeps my officers here, and that is our leadership.
Good.
It is our city manager who truly cares about our officers. He knows us by name. There's a lot of things that money will never, ever provide you. I think that the best thing that our city council can do is show that we care about them and we want to keep them here. We know it's not going to be the same. We know it. We all realize it.
Yeah.
But what keeps me here personally is that I have people like Michelle who care about us. I have people like Nathan who really care about us, because I'm not going to get that anywhere else. But also, like Michelle said earlier, there's only so much that we can give
Right.
in order, when it comes to providing for our kids and our family.
Right.
There's going to be a breaking point.
You know,
And that's what keeps us here, is the fact that there's good faith that we see. We see good faith.
well, I've had this discussion with Nathan about what separates Lemoore from other communities. And you started articulating it in terms of what you said about the difference between other. And my question to you is, are you able to communicate that, or you to deliver that in any way in terms of trying to recruit?
I do it every time, sir, every time I go and recruit the police academy.
Because my point to Nathan is that we have to start marketing what our difference is that separates us. Yeah, great, we'll do our best on the dollars, But there's those intangibles that also make the difference, like the homeowner program, things of that nature. Maybe that needs to be larger. I don't know. But, those are the kinds of things that maybe other departments don't have.
The biggest obstacle, Mr. Gornick, is that when you're recruiting cadets from the academy, they don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't experienced a bad work environment. They haven't experienced a good work environment. They don't know the difference because they haven't experienced it.
Good point.
So it's hard to get them in the door or to even apply when there's such a large gap. My goal was to let you know that I am encountering these issues in recruiting. And also to let you know that if we do lose officers, it's going to take a lot to regain those positions, to regain the quality of individuals that we have, because it is hard. We will interview 60 to 70 candidates and pick one or two, just to give you an idea. And sometimes when we get 12 applicants, I mean, it's difficult. But what we have now is precious. These officers that we have, I will not trade any one of them for anybody else because they're good people. And some are inexperienced, but they'll get that. You can't teach being a good person, but you can teach experience. They'll get it.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
I know. Thank you.
Gotta go to work, protect us.
Soledad Perez. Just to let you know, I've been here since December of 2001. So that should say something. I love my work. I love what I do and I love my city. I work here. I take pride. I mean, I live here. This is my hometown, so I take pride in what we do. But just to touch a little bit on the study that was done several years ago, community service officers were below pay scale 24%. I would love to see what the percentage is now, because that was several years ago. So I'm sure it'll probably be 30 or, who knows, maybe even 35 underpay compared to the other cities. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
My name is Nacho Carrillo. I've been working for the city for 27 years now, anyway. So we're here. Okay, 29, because I did 2 years of part-time work. We stay here because there's something about this town that we like. That's why we're here. The question is asked is who's gonna quit? Nobody's gonna quit. Everybody likes it here. We're not gonna leave. So I've been here for 27 years and all we're asking for is just make the right decision. I didn't grow up to want to be a garbage man, but I love my job. Yeah, only when you're like a little kid, you want to be a garbage man till you actually do it. The garbage guys are awesome. We're down 2 guys. We've been down 2 guys for like 3 years now. I just had 3 guys go out on COVID. It's tough because now I got to pull my welder out away from doing his job. I got to pull my sweeper guy away from doing his job. I even drove, which I don't mind, but I'm just saying, like, it goes that far. So we are very limited on what we got, like people. So all we hope is that we take care of the citizens. You guys take care of us. That's all we're asking for. It's all it is. No, it's not me versus you. It's us. We're all in this together because we're here for the same reason, the citizens of town. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Nacho.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, this is gonna be bad. Aaron Oliver, Building Division, City of Lemoore. I've been with the city for about 11 years. I just wanted to shed some quick light on the refuse and sewer departments. Extremely understaffed. I think there was 3 guys for the sewer department there today. One of which is the public works inspector now, and he can't even focus on his new position because he has to stay with sewer. Refuse has been struggling for a long time. Just wanted to say that, yeah, nobody wants to threaten the city by saying they're going to leave. We all love being here. We just, sometimes we need a little bit of help to stay. That's all I have to say.
Hello, my name is Jose Perez. As you can see, how Aaron was saying, I am sewer / public works inspector. We are down 6 guys. So we hired 2 months ago, we hired 3 guys. Unfortunately, we're down to one of those guys from the 3 that we hired. One guy went to Hanford, he's a bailiff at the sheriff county office. Another guy just came in for a day and a half and said, hey, you know what? I can't afford it to work here. He's gone. So it comes down to us now as, my coordinator, comes down to me training the new guy. And if we have an issue or something, we call out the plant guys, they come down and help us out. There's 3 guys up there, total of 6 guys here. We were a department of 12 guys, and I've been here for 10 years. I started off with recreation, went over to parks, from parks, came over to sewer. I love working here. I got another job offer to go somewhere else, but I decided to stay here. Why? Because I grew up here in town. My mom works for the police department, and she always told me, we gotta stick together and set an example for the community, why we're here and why we live and why we work here. So I just want to see if you guys could take that in consideration. I know we're shorthanded and everything. We're trying our best to work and keep our sewer department going, but it just kind of sucks trying to concentrate on a different position when you got to stay back and continue working for the sewer department. Thank you.
Just wanted to touch on something real quick. Sorry. You had mentioned the home buyers program. It's a great program. We've had people use it. It's great. The problem is we have new officers that we're trying to entice to move to town, right? But a A-step officer making A-step salary is not going to qualify for a $340,000, $50,000 home in the city of Lemoore, even with a $15,000, hand from the city. So yes, absolutely. We do have some.
Is it, you say they're not going to qualify, does it have to do with the bank or does it have to do?
Has to do with your salary. I can tell you.
Okay, I got you.
An officer that I spoke to recently qualified, I think it was like $270,000, and that's a single income family like we're talking about. How do we entice new officers? Like Lieutenant Santos was saying, we can share the programs, but if the money doesn't pair with the program, it's just there. So again, this isn't a fix all. We understand that, but it is a step in the right direction.
Well, what I was getting at was, is it the amount that's too low in terms of the down payment? When I asked the question about the bank,
It's the monthly payments. It's making those monthly payments. It's even qualifying for enough of a loan to buy the house. If a normal house in Lemoore is $350,000, if you're not qualifying, but for 270, it doesn't matter. You're not even getting in the door.
Thank you.
Kyle Reynolds with the police department. I've lived in this city since 2006. I've been with the police department for 14 and a half years now. I love this department. I love this city. But the fact of the matter is I have a family. I have 3 boys. Mr. Gornick, you are familiar with them. But, 2 of them are teenagers. One's 9 years old. And 6 to 8 months ago, my grocery bill was like $500 a week. And now it's pushing 7 or 8. And at our current salary rate, that's just not feasible. We're having to dip into our savings to make ends meet, and that's not okay.
Nobody else got a laugh when they walked up here.
We just know how much you don't like being at the podium.
Or is it that I immediately walked up and put my arm down? So I just wanted to kind of touch on some of the stuff that was talked about,
Sorry, what's your name again?
My name is Randon Reeder. I'm the management analyst for Public Works.
Thank you.
So I've been here since October of last year. And I have never had a more stressful job than this one. It is by far the hardest job I've ever had. And I love it. There are intangibles that you mentioned that the people, the benefits, the home buyers, and that does fill the gap, but it only fills the gap to a certain extent. I feel like the gap now is too large. I have calls and I've had former coworkers that have hit me up. And the positions that I've talked about with people are dramatically different than what it currently is here. And while there are intangibles that cover that gap, it gets harder and harder every day to stay. As much as I love the people, I work with Michelle and Amanda, Marissa, and Nathan, and the refuse department. I work with all of them on a daily basis, and I absolutely love it. But to a certain extent, you can't stick around. So, and with the premium pay, the home buyers, that doesn't address inflation. It addresses some issues we might have, but the month-to-month rates with inflation, it doesn't address those.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's so good to be here. My name is Alex Walker, and I've lived in Lemoore since 2005. And I see some familiar faces in the room, and I just wanted to strongly advocate and support for a COLA increase, because when we hear everyone giving public comment, I can hear the passion in their voice, the need in their voice. And I think retention is important. I think support for our employees is deeply important, because I drive a lot of Lemoore and I truly feel inspired because I see things that we can do for our fellow community citizens. And I just want to stand here and advocate for them and really echo their voices, because they said it on the stage today. And I truly appreciate everyone for giving their say and for the service that they do. And I also appreciate the debate and discussion. We had a lot of important questions come from the council tonight, but we also received a lot of important feedback and answers regarding if we are able to do this. Again, I strongly advocate this passage, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Justin Perkins, police officer at Lemoore PD. I've been here a little over 5 years now. I have a little girl at home. She's about to be 2. And then me, my wife and me, we have another baby due in February. This 10% COLA would help tremendously. Like it's been touched on earlier tonight, these single income officers that work for us, I don't see how they do it. Fortunately enough, my wife has a really good job working for another city locally. But with just that being said, just a single income, a decent neighborhood, a little more, the cost of living, houses, it's pretty expensive. So just wanted to add that a little bit to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you bring notes?
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but it's hard to sit back. My name is Margarita Ochoa. I live at 973 Prosperity. COLA by definition is an increase of benefits and salary to counteract inflation. I'm glad that the City Council is entertaining this cost of living increase. It is important to recognize that this is not a pay raise, merely a cost of living adjustment. Do I think our officers deserve a raise? Absolutely, but that'll be for a different day. We have seen record cost of living increases. I have seen more sack lunches, more officers going without, more officers applying, and it's hard for me to look them in the eye and tell them to stay. Because I have officers that are leaving our agency and making more as an entry-level officer than I am, and I'm a 24-year veteran, second in command in the city of Lemoore for the Lemoore Police Department. So I have to do what's right for them. They have to feed their families, and it's the right thing to do. I ask that you highly consider this COLA. I don't think it's gonna destroy our budget. There's a lot of passion. People work here because they love it. I was the person that proposed the recruitment and retention to council many years ago. So I'm extremely passionate. I've been highly recruited by multiple agencies. I stay here because this is home. Would I be making a lot more? Absolutely. I'm your only female bilingual officer in your city. I want to represent our community. And that's why I continue to stay here, even if an officer is going to make more than me in the city nearby. I sit on a lot of oral boards. And when they give me the application, I'm like, what position are you putting in for? Because this is a lot of money. I don't tell them what we make, but I would really ask that you consider it. I don't like to see our officers have to bring sack lunches. I want them to bring it because it's their choice, not because that's their only choice. So thank you for your consideration. And I applaud this council for taking on the vital step to ensure the continued well-being and success of the city's most valued asset, which is our employees. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Hi, council. My name is Edward Miller. I work for the refuse department. I'm not good at this, but I'm going to try. I actually was hired the same time as Jose. And I've worked in every department except for sewer. I started in water, and then I was with maintenance for 9 years. And now I've been in refuse for a year because our jobs were Um, What was that? Temporary. But we were, I worked in parks and they were outsourced, so we were offered. So we were offered and able to go to refuse, a couple of us. And they, as Nacho had said, they're 2 short now. When we joined them, they were 4 short at that time. And they were working every single day during COVID. When I was in maintenance, I was working 2 or 3 days a week. They were every single day. They were able to say it for that. And now I'm union president. I've worked with these guys for 10 years. I know all of them. And I love working with them. I've lived in Hanford. I've lived in Lemoore. I've even lived in Porterville for the last 4 years. I drive every single morning back and forth. I was camping in the Sierras to get away from the heat this weekend. I woke up at 2 in the morning to get here on time. And I'm going to go right back up that way for an hour and 15 minutes away to go camping. It's working with these guys, and it's very sad to see them go. And I love working for them, and I really want to represent them well. And I really hope you guys do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big guns coming out.
Good evening, council. My job is so easy. It's insanely evident right now. I don't have to get up here and say anything. They've said all that needs to be said. You know, Danny, Lieutenant Santos and I have a fairly regular conversation on recruitment and retention. We're gonna roll over our last reserve officer. This is the first time in almost 10 years that we're not gonna have a reserve officer on the books roll over when we lose another officer. You asked Mr. Gornick, how do we plan on addressing that? We can't recruit out of the Fresno Academy because they're already hired. Just a little statistics that the Tulare Kings, where we do the majority of our recruiting, they started with an academy class of about 46. 11 of those were sponsored through the academy. 8 of those did not pass module 1. 5 of those are already really pretty much, they're just waiting on their offer letter. That leaves, you know, less than half an academy class, just like Lieutenant Santos pointed out. When we get 12, the likelihood of us getting anybody out of that recruitment process is 0. When we were getting 60 to 80 applicants, we might get 2. We might get a good list of 5 by the time we're ready to roll into those, you know, the last 2 or 3. They either have already been picked up, but Danny and all the people at the Lemoore Police Department know we're not going to lower our hiring standards, and our detectives, our leadership team, they will put their vest back on and they will go answer calls for service. And that's the commitment that we have for the city. And that's the commitment that every single person in our department has. But again, I'm not going to make this long. They already said it. It's outstanding. Do you have a question?
Is Post able to help you at all?
Say again?
Is Post able to help you at all, or Post in terms of increasing academy?
No,
Multiple
it's
academies?
so unfortunately it's probably we're in a valley right now. It's peaks and valleys, and they can't even recruit enough
It's all over,
people
really,
to go
yeah.
into the academy to field an extensive class.
Yeah.
And again, they usually have a waiting list to get into the academy, and
And
46
there's
is
more,
not isn't maxed out.
Yeah. That's a shame to see that 180 degrees. I remember times it used to be 100 in the class. Yeah.
News cycle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Are you going to do invocation?
Not yet, not yet.
Hey.
I'm still thinking about it. Frank Rivera, Public Works Director. Just like the Public Works staff has, stated today, it's really sad when they come and they talk to you saying, hey, we're short-staffed again. I know what these guys go through every day. I mean,
sewer, sewer department, they're in deep lifts where they require two people to be there. I mean, we're right at that line where we have two people and one has to be on top, one has to be looking at pumps and that stuff to make sure, sewer is flowing. We've got guys, well, now that they're SUSP, but water guys work up day and night trying to keep water flowing throughout the city. That's stuff that citizens don't realize. They just want to see the water flowing and they want to flush their toilets. But that goes for everybody's city staff, administrative. We're all working, hard just to meet state requirements and just keep up with our duties to give the citizens of Lemoore, what they ask for. So we just ask that you consider the COLA.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
So there's only 8 people in here that did not come up and say something. And I'm going to say that those people are probably, I don't know, they're publicly shy, kind of like myself. So but we'll do it. I'm going to go ahead and speak on their behalf. So by show of hand, does anybody not support COLA? Seeing no hands for those at home watching, who does support it? Let's see. Everyone raise their hands. So I know there's a few people in here that don't want to come up and talk, and I was kind of the way to let everybody have a say in this. Is there anyone else who would like to come up and say something? I have a funny feeling that was one of my last ones.
We have one on the phone, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Mayor and Council. It's Jennifer Solis, 757 Redwood Lane. My point of view comes from the private sector, just to kind of keep that in mind. I never really got the difference between COLA and a raise, because in the private sector, it's just called a raise, right? Like there aren't COLAs, they don't exist. So to me, I'm like, if you get a COLA, you're getting a raise. But I get that in the public sector, it is defined as different. I'm not sure if I missed, and I'm sorry, my internet's going in and out. I'm not sure if I missed why the council decided not to do negotiations this year. The reason, I don't know if we can say why, or if we can share why again, because the things that I've heard tonight, it sounds like we're in a better financial position. Yes, we have had a rough 2 years, but hearing that our budget can handle it, and if there's not something that's more pressing, the fact that we've asked the staff to do what they've done over the last 2 years, I mean, given up, like we talked about, giving up janitorial, working extra hours, the town is growing, which I know means the beats grow, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm hearing about understaff, even though we've added staff. And so I'm thinking if we're financially in a position to be able to reward the staff that have stuck it out, I don't see why we wouldn't. Again, unless there is something more pressing. I know we did the water tank, but if we're taking all of that into account, and to hear even Michelle, I mean, Michelle's the numbers girl. She's not going to advocate for spending. She's going to advocate for, like, these are the numbers, and she'll tell you whether or not, we're understaffed or overstaffed. She's very facts and logic driven. And so, not to say that I blindly trust her, you don't want to blindly trust anybody, but to hear her advocate for it is impressive to me, to kind of go, okay, we have the money. She's definitely crunched the numbers. I do think, or advocate, that there should be negotiations before the next 2 years. So if it's COLA now and then negotiations next year, but in the current inflation, I mean, we've all seen it at the grocery store. Anybody that's tried to get an apartment, like they've said, have seen it. I know I personally have considered selling the house purely because of how much money it's made, or even like, maybe I should move to a rental and rent our, a 3-bedroom house out, because geez, it's just the rates have gone up. So I think that's my 2 cents. I mean, just coming from a different perspective than someone that works there. If we can do it, I don't see why we shouldn't. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any else online or no? Okay. Anyone else? Public comment? Going once? Twice? Okay. Bring it back to council. Council, do you have anything further to add to this or no? Anyone on council?
I just want to say thanks to everybody who decided to come out and also speak. Great information. Appreciate it.
I just want to put it out to the refuse department. I did go on a ride along, so I don't know if that qualifies me to maybe drive a truck if you need it, but
You really don't want to see that.
They're saying yes, that qualifies you.
Wait a minute.
I actually also
Councilwoman
wanna-
Matthews, they start work, I think, at
Yeah,
5:30.
3 o'clock in the morning.
I've been
5.
getting up early for like a month, so I think I'm getting there.
A whole
Not
month.
quite, not quite 5, but I'm getting there. I also went on a police ride along too, so if you guys need any help, just let me know.
He won't deputize anybody. I've tried.
I'm there.
Okay, well, so that's going to conclude our study session. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks for all the input. And those of you that didn't come up and say nothing, you're welcome on speaking for your behalf. So
And we're gonna start the council meeting right
now
after
we're going to
this.
start our council meeting. So if you want to stay and sweat it out with us, because it is getting hot in here.
I was gonna say,
Can we make sure that that dial is turned over there and Nathan on this side too?
Maintaining.
All right.
can we take a 5-minute break?
All right. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, which will probably be almost 10. So we'll get back in 5 to 10 minutes. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Lemoore City Council Chambers. This is our regular session meeting. It is, we're at 429 C Street, September 6, 2022. Please, as a courtesy of those in attendance, please silence all electronic devices. And we're going to go ahead and stand for invocation. And please stay standing at the end of invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Nathan Olson will be giving our invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, we ask that you bless each one in this crowd tonight, our staff, their families, and the residents that attended. Please be with our council and staff as we make decisions tonight and guide the city in a manner in which would make you proud. We thank you for the mutual respect we're seeing tonight, Lord. And we ask that you just continue to bless these chambers and bless those in it. Amen.
Amen.
Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Roll call.
Councilmember Cheney,
Here.
Councilmember Gornick,
Here.
Councilmember Orth,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Matthews,
Present.
and Mayor Lyons.
Here.
Thank you.
Here's how. Exactly.
I'm still here.
I know. Agenda approval additions and or deletions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to propose a deletion of one of the items on the agenda.
Okay.
3.3 under consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, so
And what I'd like to do is, number one, I think the comments that were made today were outstanding. What I also concerned about is the process. And I'd like to move this item to our next meeting for us to have more discussion about it. A couple of things that were raised tonight were had to do with not just the COLA, but also where we are with respect to the status of all of the positions within the city. And none of those points can be argued. What I'd like to do is set out a path to address them in one kind of comprehensive package, not just tonight. I'd like to be able to come back and take a look at a number of things, whether it's the housing allowance, whether it's COLA, the new salary schedule, compression between ranges, things of that nature.
well, I can appreciate your motion in the second. And so are we having discussion about this? It kind of feels like we were. I kind of like it. I like the 10% for now, and I would like to do the study and then move forward after that. So I'm just kind of going off of what you had to say. Yes.
Was a motion in a second.
Yeah.
Yes, if you'll take, you can take a vote, and then if it stays on the agenda, then.
Okay. So Mr. Gornick, how do you vote? Mr. Gornick?
Oh, I vote to take it off.
Okay. Mr. Cheney?
I vote to take it off.
Mr. Orth?
No,
Mrs.
no, I mean, no, I don't want
Yeah.
it taken off.
To be clear, we're talking about 3-4.
3-3.
3-3.
3-3.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I vote no as well. So 3-3 is going to go ahead and remain on the agenda. So going back to agenda approval additions and or deletions, is any other agenda approval additions and or deletions?
Yes, Mayor, item 4-1, we would like to continue that again out to the 10/18 meeting.
Okay, public hearing, all right. And is that all? Okay, so that's going to take us into our public comment. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes, and it is requested that no comments be made during this period of time on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any actions on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to the addressing council, any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. The public will have an opportunity to comment on items on the agenda once the item has been called and the mayor opens the item to public. So public comment is open. None? Okay. Still none. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to ceremonial presentations, and seeing that there is none, it's going to take us to department and city manager reports. Mr. Olson.
So first up tonight is Chief Kendall.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just have a couple items that I want to put out to you. The first being the dispatch update. We've had some movement. We've received our copier machines, and mainly our big copier machine that we need to get into records. The last thing that we're waiting on is our fax line. Working with AT&T, that may become kind of an issue between AT&T and DOJ. AT&T doesn't want to put in any more hard lines, but I think we're going to identify a path. DOJ requires an actual hard line rather than going through a wired connection, but I think we're going to make some progress here relatively quick. Also, in regards to the dispatch, I just checked again today. The $1 million that came out of the federal side, that was a grant, and I submitted all the appropriate applications and narratives back in June 1st. It closed sometime June 31st. We still haven't received any word on that. I went in again today, like I said, to see if we had missed anything or what the kind of the holdup is. I'll go ahead and reach out to the people at COPS here tomorrow who manage that grant and find out what the process is. I'm kind of holding out hope that because the federal government's on a different fiscal year cycle, October to October, that'll get awarded in October. That being said, we can't really move forward with the purchase or really just the purchase of the actual items and things to put inside the actual dispatching center. Those funds were awarded specifically for things like our radio tower, dispatching consoles, 911 systems, computers and monitors, and those are itemized budgets that was laid out in that grant package. We're still moving forward on our end. We will still regardless move forward because we have the $2 million from the state side. But I'm really anticipating in October to receive those funds. On Friday, we're meeting with Motorola. We're still continuing on our end of the process. We're meeting with Motorola and they're going to give us their proposal on building out the actual dispatch center. And so we'll see where those funds come in and what that's looking like.
Chief, did you do an RFP for any of that with, or just went to Motorola, or are you able to piggyback on any stuff?
They have and then that's something that they will present to us. But again, it's just really their proposal at this point. We haven't entered into any type of contract. But yes, from what I've been told, they do have a piggybackable contract. I assume, it worked for Visalia Police Department. I'm assuming it's going to work for us, but until I see it, I don't want to say it definitively, but I think so.
Now, that federal money was from a specific congressman.
Of Valadeo.
Have we reached out to him? Or
We have, but it's kind of a separate, separate entity that we're dealing with. We're dealing with people from COPS.
Okay.
And so I just found their contact information today.
Cool.
The police department has also been holding active shooter response training with all of the elementary schools since the beginning of the school year. We have 2 of the elementary schools left, and then we'll start hitting the middle school, high school, and college. It's good to partner up with the school administration. I know the superintendent has been out there during all of our walks, and essentially they're just running a lockdown drill. And we're going in with their, the principals and the superintendent to see what kind of security deficiencies that we see on our end. And they've been wholeheartedly receptive to this process. It's been nice working with them.
That's good.
And then we posted the Citizens Academy. We're now taking applications for those members of the community to join our Citizens Academy based on how much interest we have. We will be running a Citizens Academy course to be determined as far as date. Those applications are online on the city webpage. And then lastly, I know it's a little bit of ways out, but the week of October 24th will be Red Ribbon Week, and National Night Out will be held on October 25th. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Next, Frank Rivera.
Good evening, again, Mayor and council members. Just want to update you on a couple of projects. Bush Street overlay, as you know, it's opened up last week. It's 100% open.
Looks good.
Thank you. We did a final walkthrough last Friday, came up with a punch list, and so the contract will be working on that punch list the next week or so. But the residents didn't hear no complaints. People, working around the detours. Myself didn't hear any complaints, so I think everything went well during that duration. The other project is building maintenance and / street division. They're working with the contractor on that shade cloth over the skate park. The contractor is fabricating the poles and starting to drill holes. So once the poles are stood, city staff will hang the cables and order the cloth, and it'll cover roughly about 45 by about 30 feet of the westerly end of the skate park. And the plan is we can always grow if we need to have it grow, but that's the plan. That's it.
Thank you.
What about the parking lot?
Parking lots, yeah, we had, so that's closing tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
We had a job walk, man. We had a job walk last Thursday. We had about 4 contractors show up for that. So bids are due tomorrow, right, Brandon? Either tomorrow or Thursday. So this week.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. On the 8th. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening again, Mayor and council member. A couple things out of my office and rec. So we did have 2 recreation coordinators start this morning. So just like to thank all the internal staff that helped keep the wheels on rec as we were going through the transition. Couldn't have done it without everybody chipping in, but I will say this is the first day that Marissa and I have sat in our offices respectively for a majority of the day. So it's kind of nice to get back into the normal grind. League of California Cities, I'll be traveling with 3 of the council members, or
down there with them for Wednesday through Friday meetings. The goal right now is to bring the strategic goals and initiative kind of results in the action plan to council and study session in October. And then had a meeting tonight prior to council with the new Little League board, and they brought up the contract that was signed previously between the city and Lemoore Little League. And they're asking if council would entertain, or the city would entertain, bringing that contract back for an extension. And the reason they're asking for an extension is they're getting ready to invest heavily in ADA compliance, in pathways, in bathrooms, and their fear is they spend a lot of money, and in 24, when the contract expires, we don't renew it. So I said I would ask for consensus. So I think what I'm asked for is to bring back an agreement with a 5-year extension and potentially a 5-year renewal, but that's something we can discuss during the process. I'm just looking for council to give me a yea or a nay on extending that contract. So I'm going to say I've seen 3. Okay, we got that. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that's going to take us to our consent calendar, section 3. Items considered routine in nature are placed on the consent calendar. They will be conducted and voted upon in one vote as one item unless a council member or a member of the public requests individual consideration. They are 3-1, approval of the minutes, regular meeting, August 16th, 2022. 3-2, approval of resolution 2022-35, authorization, continued use of remote teleconferencing provisions, AB 361. 3-3, approval of resolutions 2022-36, approving changes in the wages for employees of the city and approving a new salary schedule. 3-4, approval of the budget amendments and position allocation amendment for additional full-time staff. So would any member of council like to pull items 3-1 through 3-4? None? I'm going to open it to public. Would any members of the public like to pull any of our items 3-1 through 3-4? Okay, seeing none, back to council. So council, I'm looking for a motion to approve consent calendar.
Motion.
The second.
Okay, Mr. Orth and Mrs. Matthews. Mr. Orth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews,
Aye.
Mr. Cheney,
No.
Mr. Gornick.
No.
I vote yes. So consent calendar passes. That's going to take us into a public hearing, section 4. Report, discussion, and or other council action will be taken. 4-1, public hearing has been pulled and will be moved to a future date. 4-2, public hearing. Project development agreement and cannabis regulatory permit between the city of Lemoore and West Coast Purple Incorporated for cannabis operations. Mr. Olson.
So good evening, Mayor and council members. So this is another cannabis company that has purchased the land in the light industrial area of the development south of the freeway. They're asking that we approve their project development agreement. They've been through the regulatory and have passed their background checks with the Lemoore Police Department, so they've met all those requirements. Pretty standard agreement like we've had with some other companies. To point out, the acreage there is 0.8 acres, so they only intend on growing about 11,000 square feet. So the fee structure, if in the PDA, covers up to over 200,000 square feet of total grow, even though their facility is smaller. They could vertically integrate to get above that but for the most part, for the financial impact of the city, you can expect $66,000 a year on cultivation fees. And then on the 1% distribution, they're expecting to grow about 2,000 pounds of sellable flower to another licensed operator. So at 1%, so the city would be looking at about another 34,000 in revenue on that. So if passed tonight, this is a potential business that would bring about $110,000 per annum to the city. It is a full indoor grow is what's being proposed, so it won't be kind of like what's at the end of the cul-de-sac where it looks more like a greenhouse type style and those external fans and whatnot that had some of the odors. So this will look like a fully enclosed warehouse. If you didn't know it was cannabis, you wouldn't know what they're doing inside it. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Do you have the electricity to run it?
Not yet. 2 years and PG&E won't even have that conversation until they pull the applications and the permits. So they can't do that until we give them the right to operate as one. And I will say, when it comes to the power availability here in Lemoore, we have had the city attorney have discussions with PG&E's attorney. But there's more work to be done. So it's another discussion, but we're working on that. But within 2 years, PG&E is saying they can have all the power we need for all these businesses. So what I see happening is unilateral builds as they're getting the infrastructure up, and then that'll be the final piece of hooking power up to the businesses once we get there.
Now, are they gonna sell out of that location, or is it just 100% grow?
So it's nursery plants, which we charge on the agreements $2 a square foot, and they have not said how much of that they want nursery, but they want 11,000 square feet, which is the 6. But no, they cannot sell retail out of there. It's distribution only, so it's one licensee to another licensee, and we get 1% of that fee.
And if approved, when would the likelihood of this being operational?
18 to 24 months pending power.
So 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Pretty much everything.
Is
we
that
have in
how
the
that works?
pipeline now
That's
is
gonna
2
be-
years.
It's gonna be the number, 2 years.
I think
Just
it's
like
2
the
years before they
conference
get
today.
power.
2 years.
2 years.
Council, anything else?
Yeah, I've got I talked to city manager about this before. This says 1301 Iona. The development agreement.
Correct. That is the southwest corner of 19th Avenue and Iona.
Okay,
It's right next to the storage place.
okay. And on 0.8 acres.
0.8 acres, yes.
You've got 3 fees outlined in that first, on the cannabis fees. You've got cultivation, which is the $6 one, which is 25,000 square feet. And then you've got an additional $3 for the next 25 to 50,000, right?
Correct. So with their current build, unless they went vertical, multiple layers, that would kick them into the over 25,000. Because we get the canopy is by layer, it's not just square foot of the floor. So they could potentially hit the 25 to 50,000 fee, which reduce it. But right now I have no anticipation that that's in their plan to start, but it does allow them the flexibility to expand in the future.
Yeah, because my only concern was if they're talking about 450,000 square feet, how are they going to put that on 0.8 acres other than just go up?
They will never hit the tail end of that. That's kind of our standard agreement. So we leave it in there. It could have been pulled and not even put in there. But the main structure is the $6 for the first 25,000 square feet, and then the $2 for the nursery fee and the 1% distribution cost for when they sell to another licensed outlet for the distribution.
How comparable is this going to be compared to the California cannabis site?
Size wise?
Yeah.
It'll be just one smaller building. It'll be less than one of their buildings.
So then,
But
the
it's
the smell that came off of California cannabis site was pretty significant. Agreed or disagreed?
I agree.
So are they going to be running similar filtration or better filtration?
Again, this is a completely fully enclosed, so it's an indoor operation, so you should not have any odors coming off of it. Part of the reason with California cannabis is PG&E did not have enough power, so they couldn't run all their filtration. So they were running about 10 to 20% of their filtration the whole time they were growing. They never had full power to run the systems. So now they finally have full power, but now they're just doing distribution and deliveries. They're not even cultivating currently.
So would we allow West Coast Purple, if they were to build out and not have the power, would we allow them to do something similar that California cannabis did?
as far as,
run at 10% filtration.
no, I think we learned, I think as we go along this process, we kind of learned a little bit. And the argument was that it wasn't the greenhouses, it was the open field grow.
Mhm.
And we kind of rebuff that because they're getting ready to shut down operations this year and won't start again until next year. And there's been no odor complaints have come in from this year's.
Because,
season. The only difference is-
California cannabis has not been in operation this
Has,
whole year.
right, has not been operating this.
And
grow
so
season.
that is where the smell we think was being generated from.
Yes,
And they haven't been.
the
in
data
operation.
points that way.
They haven't been on operation for what reason?
Financial.
I think financial. I think PG&E, they were operating at about $100,000 a month loss, running generators, trying to keep the place going. And they blew through some capital and I had a call, well, reached out to them last week, but we're supposed to get together here in the near future so they can lay out their plans for the future. The intent is they're gonna get back into operation here. I just don't know the date.
Yeah, but I guess there's a lot of movement in this industry
Mhm.
nationally. And there's a lot of people going belly up. And they do suck a lot of power. They do suck a lot of power. And we're going into a situation in the state where, I guess my concern is, this is not a guarantee of any of the grows that we have, that they're going to stay in business.
Correct. And I think there's no guarantee any business we bring into Lemoore guarantees.
but
We
this
see
is very-
clothing stores closed, we see retail outlets closed, restaurants closed. So it's part of doing business. I think, yeah, there's definitely a higher, there's a higher risk in a cannabis company, but there's also a higher reward when they do succeed versus a standard retailer.
Yeah, no question about that. However, how we behave as a city in terms of what we want to spend, okay, and what we rely on in terms of revenue, it's a whole nother question.
Mhm.
That's my concern. Is that may be easier for them to stay at the rate they're at. And I guess the other thing is, what else are we going to try and, what else are we going to try and attract? Are we just going to attract more and more of these?
So right now, we are kind of a hotspot for cannabis because we have a reputation of being fair to the industry.
How about fair to
And
the
easy to
city?
work with. Now, we do have other things such as we're trying to get Niagara Water into town. We've had 2 meetings with them already and their head guy stood up in the meeting and said the only thing stopping them from inking a deal with Lemoore is PG&E. So we're working that angle. We still have Helena Agribusiness coming in. They did some more flow tests the other week, so they're getting ready. Plans should be here any day, so that build out's coming. We have housing developments coming in to support. We have some new restaurants going in. We got couple new gas stations, car washes with some strip malls going in. So we do have other options, but as far as cannabis goes, we're pretty much out of room and out of ground for any more new businesses. I mean,
New
we're pretty much
cannabis
done.
businesses,
We're
yeah.
pretty much at the end of our rope.
And how about the slaughterhouse? That's still on the track.
Yes, it was approved through the county and that is just outside the city limits. Which I would at some point like to get annexed in or get into our sphere of influence so we can make it easier for annexation at a later date.
Anything else from council? We're open to public. None. Go ahead and open it to public comment for our public hearing. None. Nope. All right. Back to council. Motion to approve. A motion to approve the project development agreement between Lemoore and West Coast Purple.
And the cannabis regulatory permit, we have to issue that out of the police department to get compliant with the state. So we're asking for approval for the project development agreement and for staff to issue the cannabis regulatory permit.
So that's the motion I'm looking for.
I'll make the motion.
Mrs. Matthews motions. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And Mr. Orr. So, Mrs. Matthews, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Orth,
Aye.
Mr. Cheney,
Hi.
Mr. Gornick?
No,
I'll vote aye as well. So 4-2 is going to pass. It's going to take us to new business, seeing none. And that's going to take us into our brief city council reports and requests. Mr. Cheney, we'll go ahead and start with you, sir.
Have nothing right now.
You have nothing right now. Okay, Mr. Gornick?
again, just want to thank everybody for the presentations. I thought they were great. No question, we have to do something about the salaries, but also we have to do something about the benefits and compensation as well. Keep the city whole while we're doing it. So appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Orth?
I would start off by saying, I would like, I don't know how to word this, Nathan, but I would like to, maybe the city attorney can help me, make a request for us to put back on a future to add a compensation, what's the word?
Class and comp.
Class and comp study back for us to revisit that sooner than later, preferably next council or the council after.
Yeah, so we'll just need consensus from the council.
1, 2, yeah, we got it. Okay, we'll bring it.
All five, just
Sure.
All five.
for those that can't see.
So
Thank you. Staff
So-
appreciates that.
the other thing is, we truly appreciate the hard work you guys and ladies do for our city. Moving forward, we're gonna do what we can. We can't promise everything, but you guys do deserve. You guys have done it, a hard fight, a rough fight. I do believe we see that. And moving forward, just let us help you. You guys help us, we'll help you. We'll get there. Thank you for everyone you guys do. You guys work hard, and that's all. I'm good.
She's got a lot of notes, you
Yeah.
guys.
Short.
Mrs. Matthews, your turn.
I did attend the KCAO food distribution, which I do need to correct. I'm just used to it just being KCAO, but it has, since it moved to West Hills, it is in partnership with West Hills and CalFresh.
Fresh.
Thank you. So just want to give them a shout out too. The amount of food that people leave with is sometimes insane. It's hard to get it to fit in their cars. So because of all of those entities coming together, it's a very successful and needed food distribution. So that one happens once a month in Lemoore. So at West Hills. I have attended lots of webinars since last council meeting, a lot of them having to do with the state level, the ABs, the SBs. I just want to encourage residents to get involved when it comes to those laws coming down the pipeline. If there's something that you're for or that you're against, make sure that you write a letter, or you call your senators, your assembly members, get involved, because otherwise there's some crazy things coming down that we may not want. So just reminding you to be active. Myself and Councilmember Cheney also attended West Hills Evening of Hope, which was a really nice event. So thank you, West Hills, for putting that on. It was very well attended too. So that was a nice event. I also attended Lemoore Lions Brew Fest. And I thought it was hot then. But let me tell you, I'm wishing that we had the weather we had then now. But and also just want to put a reminder out there, September 17th is the Rumble at the Rec. So if anybody's interested in watching some people hit each other.
Those are, just for the record, those are USA sanctioned matches. So some of these fighters will go on to be professionals. It's not just rec league. These are legit boxers going at it.
Should be fun. The September 17th.
A week from Saturday.
Yeah. And I just want to thank all the staff that came today for our study session. Appreciate you guys coming and letting your voices be heard. So we appreciate all you guys taking time out of your day to come down here. That's all I have.
Oh, okay. My turn. So I would like to say to my two councilmen at the end, Mr. Cheney, and Mr. Gornick, I appreciate the direction that you guys wanted to go. I don't disagree with it, but I happen to think that the direction that we went was the better one. And I appreciate that we don't all have the exact same opinion. I really do.
Yeah.
And I don't think you guys were wrong. I think they were both right answers. And with that being said, I want to thank all city staff. And this is the most people we've had in council chambers. I'm not going to say it.
Don't jinx it.
Since
No.
since the.
Since a while.
Yeah, okay, we'll just leave it at that. And thank you for coming, really. A lot of you guys, what you said, you know, it means something. It really does. All of you, seeing you here. So we'll see you guys back in
Wait,
2
wait,
weeks.
wait,
Oh,
before
no.
we leave, sorry.
Oh,
One
man.
last thing.
Oh,
One last
here we-
thing.
here
It's
we
because
go.
it happened today. So just an FYI, the, what do you call it? The contract that we approved for retail strategies, the kickoff call was today. So that's exciting. We're talking about different retail that we're going to be getting into Lemoore, and they're a company that's going to help us bring different things here other than cannabis, obviously, and things that we need as residents. So that's going to kick in here shortly. So something to look forward to and hopefully get some more revenue and more importantly, things that we can shop for in town. So now I'm done.
Oh, and you're done now? And like what, Jennifer Solis, that was who on the phone?
Mhm.
You know, yeah, I don't trust Michelle Spear blindly either, but I'm here to tell you, that lady is, when it comes to numbers, I am nowhere near in the scope to disagree with what she says. And when she says that we can do it, I take that heavily to heart. And don't get me wrong, it's not just based upon her counsel that I make my decision. It's also, you know, all of you. So with that being said, we're adjourned. See you guys next 2 weeks.